Okay, before we start talking about the Phantom Menace, why don't we count down?
What?
We're off to a great start.
We aren't in the podcast yet. We're gonna count down and then start the podcast.
Okay.
It's a good thing we don't do this live. You realize, I want you to know, no matter if this for some reason becomes something with a audience, we can never do this show live.
Never. Absolutely
We can't do this live.
Hello, and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, where we watch one Star Wars week every week forever and slowly torture ourselves to death. I'm Josh. I'm here with Ben and Chris, and we have just watched The Phantom Menace, and it sounds like we're off to a good start. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like I did the best out of all of us. Ben, how was your watch?
Yes. So, The Phantom Hourglass, it's not really my favorite Zelda.
God damn you.
Dungeons could have been better, but I mean, it was on the 3DS, so, like, I don't hold it against it too much.
How do you feel about the Phantom Hourglass as, the movie that we're starting the episode on?
Wait, we weren't playing every Legend of Zelda until we die?
I am absolutely shattering what you have started. How was the process of sitting down and watching The Phantom Menace? Did you enjoy yourself? How do you feel?
I think I'm in trouble.
Chris?
It wasn't fun. It was it is the movie I was looking forward to the least of doing this. I don't know, because people shit on it all the time, and myself included. But I don't know. It's the one I've probably watched the least, so I don't know. I don't remember it being as bad as it is.
It's probably the one I've watched the most. Not really by choice, but because it's the beginning of marathons. And I sat down for the preview episode to watch it, and I only got a few episodes in, but I was like, hey, this wasn't a bad watch. It's a terrible movie, but I didn't have a bad time watching it. I think I said in the first episode, it was fun to deconstruct. I think my exact words on watching this a second time was it was harder than the first. It was definitely a harder watch than the first.
Honestly, it's about what I expected. There's only two things that got me through that, and that was Duel of Fates and the pod race. And everything else just kind of happens, and it makes me cry.
Should we just have the argument about the pod race at the start here?
It's the best part of that entire movie.
I didn't realize we hit the cycle of we're going to do drugs before we watch these movies yet. I thought that came later.
Listen.
So I have to point out that when Phantom Menace came out in theaters, the pod race scene was about 4 minutes shorter.
I'm sorry.
In post-production, they added a bunch at the start of introducing characters. Like, a bunch. Not to the pod race itself, although there were one or two things added to it. The beginning, the introduction, and it makes it so fucking painful. It
is glorious.
Yeah, it's sure glorious. God, I fucking hate this.
I root for Ben Quadranos every fucking time.
Somewhere in my notes here, I have some of the names for the characters they introduced written down.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. And I feel it's very important that I point them out because
I like to imagine that like they were getting ready to work on the VO for that scene, and some like unpaid intern comes running into the room like, Mr. Lucas, they're ready for the VO. Did you get those? We just need those character names. And he's shuffling papers like, fuck, I didn't. Sure. And he just starts rattling stuff off.
I feel like that's how George Lucas named a lot of stuff in Star
Wars.
Probably.
Because he would, in the episode 3 special features, it's revealed how he comes up with character designs. And he just puts a bunch of artists in a room and then puts a bunch of designs on the wall, and he names the characters after it. So it's very clear, like, he comes up with their character after. Like, for General Grievous, he had the name General in mind, I believe, and that's it. He was like, oh, this guy works with Dooku. And that was the full thought process he had.
I adore it. That is what I aspire to be.
So here are 2 really important names from the pod race. Clegg Holdfast.
Yep.
It's so important that we learn about Clegg Holdfast. And my personal favorite, you said you voted for whatever guy at the beginning. I personally always root for Dud Bolt. Dud Bolt is absolutely my favorite pod racer. Dud Bolt, just the best pod racer in the galaxy. Although I think he dies in the race.
There's a really weird part that I forgot. Like, they're going through and they're introducing all the racers, and then they get to the one guy whose name I did not write down, because why would I do that? Because fuck all of these people.
Whoa.
Listen, especially
that. Right. He's right, and he should say it.
They're introducing all these characters, and they're giving little tidbits of information. And they get to the one guy, and it's like, and his award-winning pit droid team.
Droid
and it's like, what?
His record-setting pit droid crew.
What
and
awards?
And then they shred up those droids.
Yeah, and they show the droids fucking up on the job. I'm like, how low is the bar?
They don't make pit droids like they used to.
Like, everybody else's pit crew is just sniffing glue or something. What's
I am constantly angry that they added back all these fucking scenes to this pod race, because by the time you get to the pod race, you're already sick of the entire scene. You're already so tired of it.
That's the foreplay.
Oh my
they
God.
Have to tickle your balls, huh?
That gets me going. Like, that gets me Jones. I'm like, yeah, I want to see some pod races. Can't wait to see what Ben Patronos does, and then he just sits there and explodes, and it's glorious.
Is it because his name is Ben?
Okay, listen. Very important thing about this. So, I don't know. I need confirmation in this. In Legends, do we know where Obi-Wan Kenobi gets the name Ben Kenobi from?
No. I don't think.
I choose to believe.
Could have swore they gave some bullshit answer, but again, it was Lucas throwing something out, probably like fucking this.
I choose to believe that Obi-Wan named himself after Ben Quadranos.
He wasn't even in the scene.
No, but you better believe he heard about it.
I was about to say, so
Obi-Wan is a closeted pod race fan.
So by your logic, he was so impressive that Qui-Gon felt the need to tell Obi-Wan about it when he got to the ship. And Obi-Wan thought, oh, if I ever go into hiding on this planet, it was Ben. I'm going to go by the name Ben.
No, like Obi-Wan is a pod racing fan. Closeted about his pod race passions.
Well, I do know in the EU, Anakin would get in trouble because he would go to illegal underground. On Coruscant in the EU, there was like a level of the city that was perpetually in the dark. Like, it was like Slumtown Coruscant. It was very clearly meant to be like an anagram for Coruscant as a premise. And I know the only audiobook that I ever owned on tape, because I don't know how I got it in the first place. I think I got it at a yard sale. Was the Yuzon Vong lead-in that set up the planet that they originally set up. But anyway, in that tape, in that book, Anakin would constantly get in trouble because he would go to illegal underground pod racing circuits. Like all the time, and Obi-Wan would have to kind of pull him out of it. So maybe in that respect you're right. However, I'm looking at a cursory Google search right now, and apparently
No.
Don't kill the dream.
Obi-Wan fell in love with a Mandalorian, and she called him Ben. So that's what it is.
Wait, is this canon or is this?
Is this
Legends?
Clone Wars?
It seems like Clone Wars, because I think it was like the weird.
Ben?
Yes. It seems like that weird clone Wars did, where there was like peaceful Mandalorians and there were like war mongering Mandalorians. I don't know. I haven't seen.
Death Watch became like just a terrorist organization that was like fighting against the new Mandalorians for peace. It's a whole thing. Yeah,
and it's not that important because we have to talk about Clegg Holdfast and Dud Bolt.
Yo,
and Ben Quadranero, and I feel it's so important to point out that you mispronounced your favorite pod racer's name, Quadranero.
If you look, there's several different pronunciations. I've heard it so many different ways.
It's, regional dialects and everything,
But Clegg Holdfast is probably top 3.
Fucking.
And what's his name? I forget. The guy who has 4 arms.
The one that
that might be the pit droid guy.
Doesn't have hair, but has this weird feeler that comes out of his lips that he brushes like a mustache.
Yes.
That guy?
Yes.
It's so clear that it's not a mustache, it's literally part of his skin, but he is that Is that a sexual organ? Is that why he's doing that with his feeler coming out of his lip?
Okay, if that was a sexual organ, he wouldn't be doing that in public.
Different cultures.
I want to point out we're 15 minutes into the first episode of our podcast, and we've talked about tickling balls and alien sexual organs.
Facial sexual organs.
So pod racing is bullshit.
No. It's fucking great.
Pod racing is bullshit. I'd like to talk about Watto's wife beater very badly. I want to talk about Watto's wife beater so bad.
His vest?
Yeah, his shirt.
I would not call that a wife beater.
It's a sleeveless shirt. It's a wife beater. So it's very important to me that we talk about this shirt.
Okay.
Because it's very clearly built for a human or a slunch-backed alien or something. But if you watch his wings, they are confined under the shirt and beat constantly trying to keep him in the air, and they're very clearly not designed for the wings. It's pulled up against his wings so that every time the wings move back and forth, it pushes the shirt back and then pulls it in. And it's so important to me that I point out that how badly that has to chafe. Just it looks, once you look really close at this terrible anti-Semitic caricature, you feel badly because he has to put ointment on that every night because he's just in constant pain. It's like wearing socks without shoes on long walks is what it looks like. I hate it. I hate it a lot. I'm really upset that I noticed it.
Do you mean socks without shoes or shoes without socks?
Can we...
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue this thread while also getting us away from pod racing finally, because we're gonna talk about pod racing for 45 minutes, and I'm gonna
45 years.
And I will be a happy happy boy for it.
Josh, neither one of us are living for 45 years. It's fine.
That's fair. I got
the sweet embrace of death will come for us before we have to talk about pod racing for 45 years.
It's our health prophecy.
We both die, and old man Ben is doing the one-man pod racing podcast.
I mean, he's younger than both of us by like a decent margin. That's what's gonna happen.
No, so bringing up the horrible anti-Semitic stereotype, that is the thing that struck me immediately watching this fucking movie is holy shit Chinese stereotypes.
This movie is so racist.
It's so bad.
Like
I
remembered that being an aspect of it from the last time I rewatched this like a year ago, but holy shit, it is so overt.
I moved most of my notes onto a Google Drive this week that I made like from the first watch, and a lot of them are on just the unpleasant racism throughout this entire movie. Like, it's not just one caricature in Watto. It's not just two in the Trade Federation. It's not just three in the Gungans. Like, it's pancaked throughout all of the characters in this entire movie. And that's what made this watch so painful for me. It wasn't how bad the movie was, it was how unhappy I was watching it.
This movie could have easily been subtitled like Star Wars Episode 1, George has a lot to say, and none of it good.
Everything you didn't want to know about George Lucas's opinions on other people.
Let me tell you how I feel about these people. It's like, whoa, hold on. George, slow down.
Is it time for me to go into the thing that I noticed in this movie?
Yes, please.
I went into my conspiracy theory, so it's all you.
What was your conspiracy theory?
That was your conspiracy theory?
Yes.
Oh,
Christ.
God. Okay,
so this is a closeted pod race fan.
Okay, so here's my thing. So one thing that I've seen over the years, a lot of defenders of the prequel say, and I don't necessarily even disagree with them, I just think it wasn't done well, was that the entire prequel trilogy, but especially 2 and 3, leaned heavily on George's, would I say outright activism? Because it's not like he did a lot, but like activism against the Bush administration. I think it's obvious, even though it's not done well, because nothing is done well in these movies. But that thought struck me while I was transferring over my notes before I started watching the movie. And then I started to notice something.
Oh, no.
You know how the entire point of this movie, kind of, is that Palpatine is a shady person and he needs to get in power, so he needs to create something to put himself in power?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Chancellor Valorum might have been not only on the uptake, but might have been like as bad as was presented. Like, as bad. And I have a lot of evidence.
Oh no.
Didn't they confirm that?
No,
Didn't they go into that more in the EU?
Maybe. I don't remember that.
I feel like I remember Valorum being like a shady fuck in the EU, but I honestly don't know that much and I can't remember too well.
Yeah, but he's meant to be seen in a shady light in this movie as well, but it's never like overt. It's always meant to be Palpatine is like showing the shade without going fully in depth into it to allow this to happen. I'm not saying this was like a master stroke and this all could be by accident. And I do remember in the EU they made him look shady. I don't think they ever maybe I'm misremembering, because I did read like the prequel book and the Maul book before this movie when I was younger. Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't care. Either way, most of that's not canon anyway. I need to point out.
Oh no.
Valorum. Hold on, let me bring back up my notes because Clegg Holdfast and Dudbolt is looking very strongly at me, and I'm not going to.
What's wrong with Clegg Holdfast?
It's a dwarven name.
You know what? It's a dwarven name.
It's a WoW dwarven name.
No, you know what? Because I'm thinking, because I think I've actually technically watched this more recently than the two of you, because I just watched it today, a couple hours ago.
I watched it on Monday.
They make a point multiple times of mentioning that when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are on the ship as like ambassadors or whatever, they're there on behalf of the Chancellor.
Yes. Okay,
So,
this is so important.
So I don't think he's shady. I think you could make the argument like he saw the corruption going on and that's why he turned to the Jedi.
Okay, but no. You want to know why? That's what the movie wants you to think. You want to know why I contest that? You want to know why?
Listen, I hear you, but no. It's like, fuck you.
There is no global news going on. There's no global news going on in the Naboo system. None whatsoever. And not only that, but the majority of the Senate later in the movie has no idea that there's a blockade. And when there's told there's a blockade, they're 100% convinced that it's just a blockade. It's totally a legal blockade, and they're not on the planet. The entire Senate is surprised by just the blockade. Valorum knew. And instead of like directing the news there to point it out or mentioning it in the Senate or calling it into question, he essentially sent 2 secret agents to very quietly have a talk with the Trade Federation.
Jesus Christ, you weren't kidding. This is like some FDR let Pearl Harbor happen shit.
Yeah, but see, you could make the argument. Why am I on the side now of defending the fucking corrupt politician? God. You could make the argument that he could see, all right, this could cause a war. Let me send the Jedi to try to smooth this out before it gets, let's not panic anybody. Let's not make it a big thing. Let's just try to quietly get it taken care of.
Okay, I understand your point. But if that were the case,
ready for fucking blood.
Yes, seriously.
Okay, well, actually,
I have 2 bullet points that might be paragraphs. If that's the case, why is it that in a world where comlink information is so easy to get a hold of, that no news sources were in the system at all? And the only way to get information out was off of the planet of Naboo, and that was the first thing they hit when the Jedi arrived.
Dude, can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
All of these movies, all of these books, how often is there a news broadcast in the background?
All the time.
When? Where?
There are so many news broadcasts in Attack of the Clones. Like, you literally walk past screens of news broadcasts. And let's say if I'm misremembering that. I might be misremembering that.
All I'm going to say is the only thing I remember seeing on a TV in Attack of the Clones is a pod racer for N64 in the background.
But anyway, let's say that
pod races.
No. Let's say that news is suppressed. Or let's say that news is not as prevalent in the Star Wars universe. Why? They have the technology for it. Why?
Well, okay. Hold on. Do we know that the news outlets weren't under the thumb of the Trade Federation?
So if Valorum was so deep in the pocket of the Trade Federation, why would they necessarily need Palpatine? I get, all the other stuff going on, but if we're gonna ride this conspiracy theory out, why would the Trade Federation need Palpatine if they already had the Chancellor in power in their pocket?
I don't have an answer for that.
And why would he send if he's in their pocket, wouldn't he just send like a shitty ambassador? He sends 2 superhumans with laser swords.
I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about the now.
What?
What do the leaders of the Dread Federation say in episode 2?
I don't know. We just watched episode 1.
They were tricked by a man in a cloak.
Yeah, Palpatine.
Now, yes, exactly. I will posit the idea, and I'm talking out of my ass right now because I don't have a defense for this, that it's not that unusual for a corporatocracy to see someone funnel money into their plans and overextend themselves so that their interests do not meet. I think they were serving two masters, and serving one fucked them over. But that is my conspiracy theory. I think it's still all a machination by Palpatine to get into power and do worse things. I'm just saying, everything Valorum does in this movie is not just shady. It almost seems designed to help the Trade Federation.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I could see him being, I don't know. See, I think you can only go two extremes with him. I think either, yeah, he was shady, yeah, he was in the pocket of the Trade Federation, or you have to go the complete opposite way of he was totally on the up and up and he got fucked. Like, I don't think there's much middle ground there with him. I think it's one
Not
of
really,
the extremes.
no.
It's also worth mentioning that at no point did I say that he was in their pocket specifically for them to invade Naboo. I just think that he might have been a politician put into power to protect the interests of the Trade Federation, and when he saw something they were doing that was problematic, he was like, how can I handle this to the best interest of the Trade Federation and not lose power?
Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
That has been bugging me for my entire existence.
Sure.
So, okay, the Trade Federation blockade Naboo.
Yes.
They think they kill Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. They go, oh shit, and start invading.
Because I think that was their plan from the start.
Well, to eventually invade, yeah.
They thought they killed Jedi.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're dealing with intelligent people.
I would compare. I'm not defending the plot. The plot is dumb and stupid, and if the Trade Federation was smart in any way, they wouldn't have done it. When they thought they killed Jedi, they would have gotten out of the system, because that's like the secret police.
Yeah. With superpower.
Yeah. I guess the thought process is, okay, we killed some Jedi. We don't know why we did this. We're panicked. The plan was always to invade Naboo anyway. Let's just do it now and get it done with. Okay. That's my thought process. That's all I'm saying.
But like,
I put too much eggs in the basket of Valorum is in the pocket of the Trade Federation.
My confusion from this whole sequence of events with the invasion of Naboo and the latter liberation of Naboo. The Trade Federation goes, oh shit, we need to get Queen Amidala to sign a treaty so that we can legally invade Naboo.
Well, to be fair to Palpatine,
it's never a good start.
Yeah, it's never a good start. To be fair to Palpatine's intelligence in being a terrible fascist monster, he's playing sides against one another and very clearly doesn't have the best interests of the Trade Federation in mind. And he's the one that tells them to invade Naboo. Yes. After they kill Jedi. And he is friends with everybody on Naboo because he's a senator from Naboo. So I guess he kind of was like, well, if she signs the treaty, I win. And if she doesn't, I win.
No, but like, so you invaded a fucking planet. And you're like, damn, guess we're not allowed to, like, legally invade unless we get the leader to say, yeah, okay, that sounds good to me. Like,
legally invade was to get them out of hot water. I'm not saying it's a smart plot. It's a dumb plot.
I mean, it's even dumber. And, like, so I'm watching this, and I'm like, all right. So, everything, and we know up until episode 3, literally everything that happens goes pretty much exactly the way Palpatine wanted it to. Goes exactly how he planned, supposedly. That's what we're led to believe.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we're like.
So you're telling me. So I am to believe. And we have to start before episode 1 for this absurd plan of
We're taken
Palpatine's.
into the Plagueis novel.
Because
Yeah.
and it's been made canon by the Vader comics now. I think it was the Vader comics, I believe they did it, where Palpatine makes Space Jesus, and then goes, "Yes, this will work at some point. Well, for me, this will be great." Fucking does all this bullshit. Has the Trade Federation invade Naboo. There's Jedi sent to stop this. They get a ship. They get out of there. Their ship is damaged, and they just so happen to end up on Tatooine, where they conveniently find Palpatine's Space Jesus and bring him back. You're telling me Palpatine planned for, like, ship malfunction?
I don't. The EU took the perspective that he didn't plan for literally everything to go according to plan. It was this after Phantom Menace that, like, he fully had a plan in place because Anakin was already there. And I don't think he planned for Anakin to come that. I think he was there when he was supposed to just wait on Tatooine. And he was like, good, he's here, so why not have him be corrupt by the Jedi Order and take care of this later.
I feel like Palpatine was banking on the Jedi finding him, because I used to know their, like, process or method of finding Force sensitives, but, like, obviously they're very good at finding Force sensitive children.
Well, Qui-Gon even says on Tatooine, like, if he was in the system, we would have found him already, but he's on this shithole planet, so we're never going to find him.
That kind of seems like you were never meant to find him, so that did not go according to plan.
Yeah.
I feel like he was banking on the Jedi at some point finding him, and because the Jedi are so intertwined with the politics of the era, that would inevitably bring them together, is how I kind of see that happening.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Can I say my favorite thing of this rewatch was...
No, you can't.
My favorite thing watching this movie a few hours ago. So Mace Windu is one of my favorite characters in the entirety of the Star Wars universe. This first movie especially, and throughout the trilogy in general, but this first movie, and, later on in 3, there are parts where it is so clearly Samuel L. Jackson doing his best to not be Samuel L. Jackson. There's a part in Phantom Menace when they're talking, when Qui-Gon's talking to the council and he's like, well, now, fuck you, I'll train the boy anyway. Where Samuel L. Jackson looks at him like he wants to be like, motherfucker, listen. That's going to be my favorite part of rewatching this constantly, is just watching Samuel L. Jackson try not to be like,
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, like, it's going to be him trying not to be like Space Shaft. It's
Oh, shit.
This feels like a good point to mention my unpopular opinion that the Phantom Menace Yoda doll, like the puppets, was 1,000 times better than the CGI and Yoda that they added later. And I know that wasn't like a popular theory at the time that Yoda puppet was good at all, but I hate the Yoda CGI that they put in this movie so bad. Because it's so clearly, obviously, something glossy on a screen that was added later. Yeah. Even more so than the two movies following this with the blue screen. It looks like shit. It looks like shit all the time, at all times, so badly, and I hate it so much.
I mean, all of the CGI in this movie is fucking
like,
dog shit.
In comparison to the rest of the CGI, I don't mind Yoda that much.
Yeah, Yoda is so much... The first time that Jar Jar pops up on screen when Qui-Gon's running through the forest, it's like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Come on, man.
No, the reason why I bring up Yoda is because I don't know why, but George hated the puppet from Phantom Menace, and he replaced it with the CGI that used for 2 and 3, but it was like the prototype for 2 and 3, and it was fucking awful, and I hate it, and I wish I had watched it on DVD where the puppet was still in place. That's all. That's all I needed to say.
Speaking of the terrible CGI, I mean, the fact that George Lucas is famous for like adding shit and taking shit out and changing shit, the fact that they have not touched the terrible fucking dive that Jar Jar does into the water.
No, that's over the top. He loves that.
He jumps up and just turns into a blob, and you hear noises, and he's just in the water.
It's like some fucking like, it's like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, there is nothing. And I mean, I've had this argument with people many times. Like, you know, yes, Star Wars is very much a movie for children. They use, you know, there's stuff in each of the movies to sell toys. I get it.
Yeah.
There is nothing redeemable about the Jar Jar or Gungan story at all. If you take that shit out, it is instantly a better movie. Like,
that also would make the ending better. So, like, I get the tactics used in play at the end of the movie, even though it's so overly complex. But the end of this movie is so tonally all over the place that I hate it more than any other part of the film other than the pod race, because it literally actively detracts from the awesome Duel of the Fates. It actively detracts from it. There's like all these cool things in the Duel of the Fates, like the character moment of Obi-Wan sort of like not knowing what to do as he watches the Jedi Master and the Sith in front of him from beyond the red barriers, the ray shields in the hallway scene. Yes, the ray shields. As Qui-Gon just decides to sit down and meditate, waiting for his next move, and Maul just paces backwards and forwards, so entirely entranced with what he's doing. So much so that in the Old Republic MMO, when you're trying to get when you're trying to heal as a Sith, you do that exact walk. It is that iconic.
I did not know that was in there.
Directly after Qui-Gon dies, the droids beat the Gungans, and then Jar Jar is told not to give up, and then he drops his blaster and puts his hands up literally a half second later and says, "My give up, I give up." It is so tonally out of place and all over the place. I hate it. In the special features of Phantom Menace, there is a famous scene, one of the few famous scenes from the special features, where George and everybody working on the movie is just sitting watching the end, trying to come to terms with how they can't fix this. And it's because they did too much. They have 4 different plots going on at the same time. It's the opposite of Empire. It's 4 different plots going on at the same time, 2 of which are unimportant, one of which doesn't have a character that you know well enough to like carry the scene, and one of which is crucially important to the saga. And they just like look at it, and the look of hopelessness in their face is incredible. And then it cuts to a scene in the hallway where they're like, "Well, we're making bold choices." I'm like, you made a bold choice, all right.
Oh my god.
There's
from a certain point of view.
I mean, there's something to be said about how good of actors Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor are.
Okay, I want to, right before you say this, I want to give some credit out, because I don't want to, I don't want it to get lost, because I want to make sure it's in there. Prunella August that plays Shmi is fucking fantastic in here, with a dog shit role that's been given to her. Natalie Portman also is fantastic with all of the facial animations that she's given. Ian McDiarmid is the best of all time. All of the actors in this movie, pretty much, even I would say, oh god, I can't remember. I didn't write down the name of the kid who plays Anakin. I would even say he did better than Hayden Christensen. Like, everybody is tonally on point. I don't want to take away from the actors in this movie. Go ahead.
See, all right, well, I'll come back. Let me circle back to that. Let me circle back to that. Because I'm gonna insult a small child.
No, that's my point. As a small child, Hayden Christensen was a man who should have known acting better.
There's something to be said about how good of actors Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson are, though, because have you ever seen the photos of the motherfucker in the Jar Jar outfit that they had to act with?
He just legit put a Jar Jar head on top of his head.
But the guy's got he's got like this, like, if I remember correctly, like goggles or something, and like
he's
his
got
mouth
like a sci-fi Tron set of sunglasses that go around the bottom of the Jar Jar helmet.
Yeah. And this motherfucker's walking around, and they gotta act with this thing. They kept straight faces.
All of the people in the movie did, because everybody gets a scene with Jar Jar except Palpatine.
Oh man, what a scene that would have been.
We know for a fact he could have done it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I
remembered.
I thought I remembered that. Look, the kid's not horrible, but oh god, child Anakin is so fucking insufferable.
I just fucking I found an image.
Oh no.
Of
what?
This guy in the Jar Jar suit.
We need like a link dump for this, so we could just like, here's all the shit that we talked about, like including this image that Ben brings up like an hour and a half into the podcast.
No, I found an image of the guy in the Jar Jar suit looking down at child Anakin. And it's like the shit of nightmares.
We'll tweet it out on the Twitter account, and people months from now, when we start putting them live, can see it.
Oh god, I just inhaled alcohol.
Part of me wants this to be like the only thing on the Twitter.
With no comment, just that photo.
Oh my god.
Well, there's there's just the soon tweet. And then there's this, but actually, and that's the Twitter account.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
We need
I don't know how I'm gonna subsequently watch this movie.
That is the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Can we Photoshop that picture? Can we? That's great. First off, I just saw it. Can we take that and can we Photoshop the logo we made for the podcast over Anakin and just have...
Oh, that's awful. Okay, so I'm gonna contest this the kid is insufferable thing. I'm gonna say that's a problem with the movie, not with the kid. The kid did fine, and I actually like him more because he's got like that Gen Z vibe going on now that I watch in 2020. There's a scene where they're talking about what happens if a slave leaves Tatooine. And Anakin just like completes his mom's sentence by going, and they blow you up, and pounds the table and goes, boom! And he's so excited by the prospect of dying. I'm like, that's a Gen Z kid to the core, and I respect it.
I would like to circle back to that 9 weeks from now when we're back here and I'm also excited about the prospect of dying.
And they blow you up! Oh, God.
Do we got anything else important? I think I didn't even get most of my notes, and that's exciting because it means we're not going to talk about the same thing every single time. At least not this year.
So here's how I imagined us doing this. I assume every time we come back to a movie, we're not going to just be reviewing the movie and then talking about other stuff. I imagine we're just going to go on a different fucking tangent every time we come.
These are going to be delving into different areas of our individual madnesses after a while.
I like that this one was Josh's. Next one will probably be Ben's, which means it'll be the pod racing special. And by the third one, I'll be good and fucking done with this, and I'll rant for 45 minutes.
God, I'm trying to find, like, good notes, like, things that aren't nitpicks, and it's
the
actually...
Phantom Menace. There is no good notes.
That's the thing. I mean,
there's the pod race and there's the Duel of the Fates.
Duel of the
all
Fates,
you get.
Duel of the Fates doesn't get credit for this, but is an amazing example of using silence in beats rather than music, which doesn't happen a lot in Star Wars. But it has amazing beats where all of the music and most of the sound effects just go silent in order to emotionally impact specifically Qui-Gon's death. Fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal. Great cinematography.
That
Great
reminds
sound
me
design.
of a rant I need to get to when we watch fucking Return.
My favorite part of Duel of the Fates is because Liam Neeson is so stiff, and if I remember correctly, wasn't he in like a car accident or something, and like his shoulders messed up?
Oh, I don't know.
Isn't that his deal?
I think so, yeah.
Like he's pretty stiff. Like he moves really well, and I mean, you know, Taken obviously, and granted the majority of that was a stuntman, but watching the saber duel with him and Darth Maul, it's like he has this intensity when he's, you know, hitting and blocking, and he's like making these faces. And I'm sitting here watching. I actually rewound a couple times where I'm trying to figure out how much of it is intensity and how much of it is him being in pain every time he raises his arm and has to move like ow, fuck, shite. Like it's just like
I don't.
That poor man. I just imagine
he was in a
him
motorcycle
being like,
crash.
yeah, there it is.
Okay. Poor man. I just imagine like, all right, that was good. Let's run it again.
Exactly.
We would be remiss if we did not mention one of the most annoying things retroactively about the Duel of the Fates. And that's that Obi-Wan Kenobi wins from the low ground.
Nah, you see though. He jumps up and over Maul.
Which is what Anakin tried to do.
Yes, but there's a whole explanation for that.
Regale me.
Well, okay, recently I was delving into, I forget what comic it was. It's one of the newer Marvel comics, so it's canon. And Anakin would actually frequently run a simulation of Obi-Wan's fight with Maul.
Yeah.
So that very well explains why Anakin was like, oh, I'll do this thing. He'll never see that coming, because Anakin's fucking stupid.
Okay. But that doesn't change the fact that Eye of the High Ground is a stupid line.
Whoa!
It's a stupid line because it implies that you cannot win from the low ground when Obi-Wan's defining moment in his battle with the dark side in himself wins from the low ground.
Yeah, but I think
having the high ground is an advantageous position during a duel.
Yes. But he's implying that he literally cannot win.
Josh, you're thinking of it in the opposite direction, I think. The whole point of it, I think, is yes, that is one of Obi-Wan's defining moments, and it's because of that he sees it coming and knows, you know, he's got Anakin's number on that.
I never realized how well that mirrors.
I guess.
Like, because, like Josh said, Obi-Wan's fighting with the dark side in him, and Anakin's being an angsty fuck.
Yeah,
episode 3 is gonna be fun.
That's how I've always read it, like the opposite of what you're saying, Josh. Like where you're like, well, he makes it sound like it's impossible. No, he makes it sound like it's impossible because he knows that move. It's his move. He's got Anakin's number on it.
I guess.
You're
not wrong. You're not wrong. No, I'm not upset. I just don't agree. I just think it's bad writing.
Nah, you're wrong.
Look, I'll give you a lot of bad writing in Star Wars. I don't think that's one. I think that's actually good writing for Star Wars.
Yeah.
I will say, this episode made me happy because after watching The Phantom Hourglass, this shit is like therapeutic. Like I feel like I just took all this negativity in, and now I'm just like.
It's a therapy session. Just forget that I did this to you, and it'll always feel like we're suffering through this together.
I feel like that's what a cult leader would tell me to do, but I'm gonna listen anyway.
Oh my god.
When I did the original, like, notes when I was trying to watch all the movies before the preview episode, I had, like, sections that were, like, what's the opening crawl premise, and what's the movie goal, and, like, what's its place within the trilogy, and were those decisions right, and does it accomplish it? I've decided, like, it doesn't
Now
matter.
we're just like, fuck it. Click hold fast.
There's I think in regards to the opening crawl, they're all very well done. They're all, memorable in their own way. I think there's only one bad opening crawl in the entirety of the series, and we will get there in 9 weeks.
Yeah.
I want to be slightly fair to the people that waited 10 years for this movie to come out. To go from pulp fiction of the original trilogy, and then as an adult go see these new movies, and the first thing that you see is
Fargo's or what the fuck?
turmoil, trade route. The taxation of trade routes is in dispute.
Oh yes, that's what it was.
It's something like that. I understand why they were immediately like, what?
Is this Star Wars?
And then you get into it, and you're like, oh, there's 2 Jedi. Oh, this is cool. And they're fighting some droids, and then they Sonic the Hedgehog down a hallway, and you go,
hold on. Okay, so I put this in chat so you guys know it, but fucking it catches me off guard every time when they're like, Qui-Gon's bashing down the door with the lightsaber, and Obi-Wan's like, look, Master, destroyers, and they're like, gotta go fast, and then they just fucking teleport.
It's like whoever was editing that part figured out that they could, like, speed up a section of the film, like a section of the shot, just like people, and speed them up in shot without losing the background, because they could take, like, in the background and then superimpose and move them very quickly, and they were like, this is the coolest thing that's ever been done in editing ever. I need to get this in. And that person has been like, it was like his first day on the job.
And they're like, hey, George, so, like, we gotta get them out of there real quick. How does this look? And George is like, hey, that's fine.
It's fine. I'm gonna give the guy who created the Yoda CGI a terrible hard time about the blood vessels in his ears, but like that.
But then the fucking droids turn the corner and they're already like down a like fucking half-mile long hallway. They never use that again, ever. Like, fucking excuse me.
You think that could have gotten, that could have gotten a few of them out of Order 66, If they could all Sonic the fucking Hedgehog out of there. Like, no, thank you. Get away.
I really, emotionally, I need to bring this up.
Oh, no.
Is Qui-Gon a huge piece of shit? Is it just me? Does he not know what he's doing?
He comes off really like... He comes off like I don't know if he's supposed to be like slightly arrogant, but like he comes off as the member of the Jedi Order who sits by himself in like the Jedi cafeteria with like half a joint tucked in behind his ear.
Oh, so now we're just attacking me. That's the plan.
Damn.
No, it's fine.
But, like,
I didn't have a half a joint.
He does the wrong things for the right reasons sometimes.
But, like, I'm not going to go on this rant. But in my first watch, I mentioned that he was, like, the Jedi that was, like, a reckless guy with a plan. And then I went, like, on a rant about how all of his plans are really bad.
Yeah.
But they work.
do they?
You're right. Him walking up to the droids and lying to them about, telling them he's taking them directly to Coruscant totally worked.
Okay, listen. He bought them some time.
He's also like aggressively like, I don't know, like there's the moment where Obi-Wan, after they bring Anakin back and they talk to the council and the council's like, no, that boy's dangerous, we'll test him, but also this is a bad idea. Obi-Wan says something to the effect of like, oh, the council know you'd be a master too if you weren't so insubordinate, basically. And Qui-Gon basically just turns to him like, fuck you. Anyway, moving on.
I mean,
yeah.
Also, to be fair, the Jedi are a fucking cult.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think we're going to talk about that a lot in the next two movies and also The Last Jedi. So I don't want to spend, a lot of time on that because that's, the themes of those movies.
Yeah, you're right.
And it would also mean that I would start my Yoda is a dick to a 10-year-old child rant, and I think
I know that's going to happen sooner or later. For the last hour of this movie, I had a friend in voice chat with me. And it's funny because I realized the structure of Yoda's interactions, and I laughed, and I just said, oh my god, and my friend goes, what? And Yoda just totally treated this 9-year-old like an absolute piece of shit.
Yoda is the biggest piece of shit in all these movies, but we can't talk about that now.
That'll be down the road.
We'll be able to talk about Yoda. We won't be able to talk about Qui-Gon. One of the biggest dick moves I've ever seen a guy do is Qui-Gon after they won the pod racing money. The pod racing money that they that they weren't supposed to have. But then he hustled Watto down out of it by threatening to go to the Hutts. The pod racing money, he hands it to Anakin on the way into the house. And he's like, you won this. While intending to take Anakin off of the planet, while leaving his mother behind in slavery. And it just kind of feels like, I think Anakin ends up giving her the money, but from Qui-Gon's perspective, did you just never even once consider giving Shmi that money directly so she could, I don't know, survive and or buy her way out of slavery? Because you took her 10-year-old child to a faraway planet? It feels like Anakin wasn't the person to have that.
I mean, to me, the worst part of that, too, is so yeah, Watto is like, no, that wasn't fair. And so Qui-Gon's first instinct response to that is, well, how about I bring this information to the mob so they fucking kill you?
I thought about it. Then I remembered, he's a slave owner. I don't care.
Well, yeah, but also Jedi. But anyway, so after that, and he's like, fine, take the boy. Wouldn't that be the time to leverage and be like, well, give me his mother too? Or again, the mob will fucking kill you.
Well, I think he was so indoctrinated in the Jedi cult that he was like, I can't take his mom. He might turn to the dark side then. Even though that was one of the major reasons why he turned to the dark side. Because you can't have attachments or family. Except those things kind of led to him having an attachment and then led to him falling to the dark side.
That's my favorite thing. So you hear about the Jedi in the original trilogy. And then your first introduction to the Jedi in the prequel trilogy is Qui-Gon walking around like the dude in Big Lebowski.
Qui-Gon rolls up with a big fucking stogie. He just starts gambling kids away.
He's they get to this planet and find out that there's slaves, and this kid and his mother are slaves. And Padme is like, oh, that's terrible. And Qui-Gon's like, anyway.
So
oh, Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon. So that feels like a good point to end on.
Does it?
Yeah, Qui-Gon's an asshole. I'd like to mention how therapeutic this was and how few notes I went through and how that gives me hope for us not saying literally the same thing every time we review an episode, at least for the first little bit. And I'd like to congratulate us on doing an hour and something of talk about the Phantom Menace without even once mentioning midichlorians. I think that I think we are owed some sort of medal of honor for that. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. No, I can feel it. Somebody's gonna bring it up.
No.
I want to. No, hold on. I want to.
Chris, I will
You can't
find
do this.
you.
You can't do this.
I will fucking kill you.
What? What happened?
He's afraid you're going to talk about midichlorians, and this is going to continue when we had a perfect point to jump off of.
I need to point out.
Oh no!
Before we get away from it, because we're talking about Qui-Gon being like your cokehead uncle, and I need to like. So, rewatching this, because again, it's been a while, and I feel like I could be wrong, because again, it's been forever. The prequel trilogy is the series I've watched the least.
That's why it's like Attack of the Clones so much.
Hey, fuck you. Perfect movie. Anyway, so I don't remember. Do they ever bring up the midichlorians again after Phantom Menace?
I think there is a throwaway line after an Attack of the
Yeah, but it's not more than a throwaway
sure.
line.
So they're talking about the midichlorians and everything. It got to a point until I think Yoda brings it up during the Jedi Council. Yes.
Why?
We had a perfect end to the podcast.
I have to have my momentary what I thought was going to be my conspiracy theory until it got deconfirmed. So I'm watching this movie.
Now I'm in the fetal position.
And it gets to the point where Yoda mentions it, like during the council thing, like they're talking about his midichlorian and everything. There was a while where I'm rewatching this movie and thinking to myself, like, do the midichlorians even exist, or is Qui-Gon making this shit up? Because it's so fucking ridiculous, and it comes out of nowhere, and he's just taking this kid's DNA and like.
And Obi-Wan's just humoring him.
Yeah, it's like some science.
Obi-Wan, I need you to.
Like, oh, your thetans are off.
I need you to get me a midichlorian count on this. Oh yeah, it's like fucking 10 billion or some shit. I don't fucking know.
Exactly. Like I'm sitting here watching this, it's like fucking Qui-Gon is just making this shit up while he's gambling kids and fucking like doing space coke or something. Like what? He's just fucking midichlorians. Yeah.
I think we found our podcast episode name. Cocaine Space Uncle. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first in a long series of our letting you down on the structure of a podcast while we slowly go insane from watching one Star Wars movie every week for the rest of our lives.
Welcome to the descent, my friends.
It's been a pleasure. I'm worried about my mental health. I'm worried about my friend's mental health. And I guess we'll see you next week for the worst movie in existence.
Whoa. Hold on.
The worst movie in the Star Wars saga.
All it needs is a pod race, and it's perfect.
Well, it has one in it.
Technically, yes.
Thank you all for listening. Goodbye. We're all gonna go decompress as this sets in. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
We got so close. We got so fucking close to not mentioning it.